if I find myself in this position where I've got some cartilage breakdown, some OA happening, what do I do to restore it? What's my prescription to get that healthier? And can I bring that back to as good as it was? I suppose that's going to depend on how much damage I've done, but what's our prescription there for rehabbing that?
Fabulous question. I love this question because I think this is the question that's not asked often
Right.
enough. It's like, oh, my cartilage is not healthy. Great. Like this is the beginning of a slow decline. I'm just going to
Right.
have to accept
Yeah.
it.
This is the
It's,
inevitable end, right? Yeah.
and it's not. It's not. So every tissue in our body, every structure in our body can be affected by movement, can be affected by exercise. They are affected differently, but everything from our brain to our gut to our muscles to bones to cartilage can all be influenced by movement and by exercise. So I like to think of the strengthening required or for cartilage. I use the analogy of if you were building your dream home and it's 2 floors, you're not going to focus on building the second floor or even the first floor until you have a really strong foundation. And cartilage is that strong foundation. And the reason is that cartilage gets very little, next to no blood supply. Blood supply is what commonly brings the ingredients necessary for rebuilding, for getting stronger, for staying healthy. So muscle gets lots of blood supply. Like I talk about muscle as it's kind of the second floor. It's got tons of blood supply. We'll just say 100% blood supply. So you can work a muscle really hard and you may be sore the next day, but it kind of goes away and you're left with an even stronger muscle because you've got all the ingredients there to build it up. Tendons, which tie muscle to bone, get a lot less blood supply. So tendons are getting like 16, 17% the blood supply that muscles are getting. And it's going to be different if the tendon is in what part of the body the tendon's in and how much exercise is going on at the moment. But they're getting significantly less blood supply. So instead of doing something that requires a lot of effort and maybe 10 reps, like a muscle would like, a tendon is going to need less effort. You have to be gentler because there's not as much blood supply there. And so the rep count is going to go up. Cumulatively, you're now going to be in the hundreds of rep range. When you come down to cartilage is not getting blood supply. Pretty much, we can just say 0% and be pretty accurate there. So now the effort level on the exercise comes down even further. It's even gentler. Well, anything that gentle, you're going to have to do it a lot more. So cumulatively, we're talking thousands of reps. You do something 1,000 times, you don't need resistance. You don't need a weight. This needs to be really easy to be able to replicate it over and over again. This is more like motion. Motion essentially presses on those joint surfaces, presses on that cartilage, kind of massages it, and it becomes more resilient over a matter of weeks and months and years.
Okay, so that's very interesting. And that explains then why when we go to the PT and we go to a physical therapist, we get these prescriptions very often of doing very lightweight, very endurance based. I've just recently rehabbed a shoulder.
Sure.
I did, like you said, thousands of I's, Y's, and T's.
Yes.
And
yes.
to me, it's can be very, very boring. And I've rehabbed a lot of parts of my body with people like you who are fabulous. And I have found that when you stick to these long, boring exercise routines, you can not only can you rehab, get yourself back to where you were, very often you're building a more bulletproof body in the end. You're coming out stronger than you were before. And I hadn't heard it explained that way, that of course muscle, the classic hypertrophy rep range is say 10 to 12 reps, right? But then when we start talking about strengthening tendons, we're talking about hundreds of reps, and we're talking about these blood deprived cartilages, we're talking about thousands of reps. So that's a very good explanation about why if somebody injures their knee or any other part of their body, ends up with somebody like you, they're seeing these usually small, precise movements with lots and lots and lots of reps.